Let's talk about these recent encounters at sea with our first guest tonight. Welcome to The Big Story, Jonathan Malaya. He's the Assistant Director General of the National Security Council. Thanks for talking to us, sir.
Yes, I'm honored to be here, Denise and Chiki. Thanks for having me.
Sir, first, from the reports of the Philippine Coast Guard, what exactly transpired or what happened at Bajo De Masinloc? And it's not only BFAR vessel BRP Datu Pagbuaya that was involved in this encounter, but two other Philippine vessels. Is that correct? What is the story?
That's correct. Our Philippine vessels, both the BFAR and the Philippine Coast Guard, was responding to uh, pleas, no, was responding to requests for help coming from our Filipino fishermen because there was reports of harassment of our fishermen in that area. So immediately we deployed the BFAR and the Coast Guard vessels there, uh, and it was our intent to resupply these Philippine vessels, the Filipino fishermen, so that they can undo their fishing for a prolonged period of time. But unfortunately, both BFAR and PCG vessels, in particular, Datu Pagbuaya and the Philippine Coast Guard vessel, in particular BRP Teresa Magbandua, the Bandua was blocked and shadowed by by a plan or People's Liberation Army Navy ship, while the Datu Pagbuaya was twice water cannoned and side swept by CCG 3302.
ADG, as we know, it's always he said, she said when it comes to this encounters with China. And they are saying, of course, by they, I mean China, says it was a smaller boat of the Philippines that dangerously approached its vessel. What do you make of that? And again, what are you hearing from the crew, the members, the people on the BFAR ship?
Well, this is again typical Chinese disinformation, fake news, trying to change the narrative by claiming that it's the Philippines that infringed on their sovereignty. Again, claiming that the Philippines was the one that provoked this incident, or again claiming that the Philippines was the one that created the conditions upon which this incident happened. When in fact, we have showed videos and photos, as you can see right in front of you, that it was the Chinese vessels that did dangerous and aggressive maneuvers and did water cannon and side swept or rammed our vessels. Let me just emphasize that China has no legal right to Bajo de Masinloc. BDM is Philippine territory. As such, it has a 10 nautical miles territorial sea, and this is clearly stated in the Philippine Maritime Zones law, the 2016 arbitral ruling, as well as UNCLOS. So again, we should not, the Filipino people um, should not believe in what the PRC is saying, because time and time again, they have shown that many of what they're saying are not entirely true.
Just before I move on to our next question, I'd just like to clarify. So if an area like Bajo de Masinloc is within the Philippine area of not Philippine area of responsibility, but exclusive economic zone, does this mean that anybody who passes by the area or passes through needs our permission?
Well, Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough Shoal is not just within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Bajo de Masinloc is Philippine territory, because if you say EEZ, what we only have there are economic rights, no? The right to utilize the resources that are found in the sea. But in the special case of Bajo de Masinloc, it is Philippine territory. Therefore, it generates a 10 nautical mile territorial sea. Therefore, it is that Philippines exercises sovereignty over it.
Thank you. That's very clear. In relation to Bajo de Masinloc, no, China has submitted to the United Nations baselines on its supposed territories. It included a chart of Bajo de Masinloc as part of its waters. What is your reaction to this?
Again, this has no legal effect. The submission of the People's Republic of China to the United Nations is flawed. It is flawed because you do not make baselines that are so far from the mainland. The basis of an archipelagic baseline are the outermost islands that comprise, like for example, the Philippine archipelago. So our baselines are from Batanes all the way to portions in Pangasinan and Zambales. But in the case of China, they are so many kilometers away, very far. Their largest island is Hainan Island in the PRC. So it is impossible for them to have baselines with that distance in Scarborough Shoal. So it is Scarborough Shoal is very near to Zambales. So again, all of these legal warfare tactics that are being submitted by the PRC to the UN has no legal force and effect, and it doesn't really change the situation whatsoever.
ADG, unfortunately, what happened isn't the first time. What's the update on the compensation being asked naman from China for the June 17 incident of Second Thomas Shoal? And that incident also caused injuries to Filipino personnel, with a Navy serviceman even severing a finger.
Well, I don't really have the information right now on that. It was the AFP that wanted to make that claim. It is not clear if the Department of Foreign Affairs has already received a reply from the People's Republic of China, from the Chinese government. But I think we made that request, or we made that claim to the PRC, but it's not yet clear what the response is.
Okay, on to another topic, ADG. The Russian embassy released a statement on its submarine spotted in the West Philippine Sea. It said in part, there are no signs of violation of international law in the actions of the Russian submarine. In accordance with the 1982 UNCLOS in the exclusive economic zone, all merchant vessels and warships, including submarines, enjoy freedom of navigation as on the high seas. Asking for your reaction to this.
Well, clearly, the Russian sub, no, the UFA, when it entered the Philippine exclusive economic zone, did not show any hostile intent. I think that's the first thing that we have to make to clarify to the public. There was no hostile intent whatsoever. And when we deployed our assets, in particular the BRP Jose Rizal, to issue a radio challenge, they immediately responded, no? And they explained who they were, what they were doing there, where they came from, and where they're going. And in less than a day, they left. And before they left, they also radioed the Philippine Navy that they were leaving. So in this sense, it was at first alarming because we spotted a Russian submarine in the West Philippine Sea. But when our Philippine Navy ship attempted to make contact, they responded in a professional manner. So, and also, as mentioned by the Russian embassy, they were within the high seas. They were not in the territorial sea of the Philippines. So we see no alarm. No, we were no longer alarmed after the said incident.
Again, ADG, where do the new maritime laws come into play when talking about freedom of navigation? In a nutshell, how can the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act protect Philippine EEZ and sovereignty in general?
Well, what the Philippine Maritime Zones Act does is it delineates the areas in the Philippines where we exercise sovereignty, areas in the Philippines where we merely exercise sovereign rights, and areas in the Philippines that are under our jurisdiction. So in the case of the Russian sub, it did not enter Philippine territory, which is where we exercise sovereignty. It merely passed through our EEC. So we do not exercise sovereignty there. No, we only exercise sovereign rights, which is the authority to utilize the natural resources. So what's important about the law is that before, we did not have a domestic law which clarified these areas. We only referred to UNCLOS, or we only referred to the 26th and arbitral ruling. So what we did was to put those provisions of the arbitral ruling and the international law into our domestic law.
Yes. Also, we have heard of this task force, Ayungin, and this is by way of U.S. Defense Chief Lloyd. He let it slip earlier. So the existence of this, we need to know information about, like, what is this task force about? What will it do exactly, and who are part of it?
Well, the task force is a U.S. unit that is assisting the Philippines and supporting our activities in the West Philippine Sea, in particular, our resupply missions to Ayungin Shoal. The U.S. task force does not actively participate in operations, meaning our resupply missions to BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal are 100% manned by Philippine troops, directed by Philippine officials, and undertaken by Philippine Navy and Western Command assets. So what the um, U.S. Task Force, which is Task Force Ayungin, what it does is to provide support, technical assistance, as well as intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance so that we can plan out and execute the resupply missions better.
And would this support and assistance that you talk about, would this be expanded to other areas of the West Philippine Sea that's experiencing aggression?
Well, right now, since the U.S. is a treaty partner, our security cooperation with them covers a wide range of activities, not only limited to our Ayungin Shoal, but they also help us providing technical assistance to us in other parts of the Kalayaan Island Group and even in other parts of the West Philippine Sea. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, we already have this very strong um, alliance with the United States, which is really foundational because our security relationship with them is one of the oldest that the US has in this part of the world. No, the US and the Philippines are treaty allies. Our security cooperation dates back to the time when we were a Commonwealth of the United States, and with the Malikatan exercises and many other activities, we just expect this to be stronger moving forward, given the geopolitical conditions in our part of the world and the challenges that we face together as allies.
The year is coming to a close, and next year is actually going to be President-elect Donald Trump's turn to be at the White House. What does the Philippine-U.S. alliance look like under his administration?
Well, we can only surmise based on the previous administration of Trump when he was president. No, 4 years ago, that was his first term, and based on his pronouncements as well as the pronouncements of his Department of State secretary at that time, we do not expect any major changes in U.S. foreign policy towards the Philippines. I say that because the concept of free and open Indo-Pacific was actually conceptualized during the Trump administration. So the Trump administration support for international law and the rules-based international order was already conceptualized and implemented during the first Trump administration. And we also heard assurances during the first Trump administration of their support for Philippine territorial integrity and the strength of the U.S.-Philippine alliance. So based on that, and also based on the fact that many of the nominees of President-elect Donald Trump also have a strong, somewhat position insofar as China is concerned, then we are not worried. The Philippine government is not worried that there will be a major shift in American foreign policy. We expect that under the Trump administration, our relationship will grow stronger and our cooperation will grow deeper.
And finally, ADG, we know this was tackled in the Fishermen's Congress in Palawan, where you told the fishermen to go beyond municipal waters and explore the West Philippine Sea. How do we assure protection to them from the aggressors, and how do they take it?
Yes, that's why what has happened today is really the implementation of that promise, no, by the Philippine government, by President Bongbong Marcos, that we will not abandon our fishermen if they face harassment. No, that's correct. During the Fishermen's Congress in Coron last week, we said to our fishermen that we are here for you and that we will support you. And that's why you will see in both Bajo De Masinloc and in Escodin Shoal and also in Rosul Reef last week, when they call, we come. No, we may face harassment, no, but that doesn't mean we will stand down. The Philippine government will be there through the BFAR, to the Coast Guard, and maybe even by the Navy to support our Filipino fishermen, because as I told the Filipino fishermen in Coron, Palawan, I told them that when you fish, you don't only fish for for your family, or you fish because it's your livelihood. When you fish, you're also upholding Philippine sovereignty, sovereign rights. You're also upholding the maritime zones law, and most importantly, you're upholding the international rules-based order.